with us, but their books always would be. I watched a few hands rise into the air and was about to call on a man this time when I spotted a figure weaving his way to a chair in a row toward the back. I recognized Thomas Rudd immediately, even though the years had not treated him well since the last time we'd met. He'd been an author of some repute, a master of noir whose work had regularly appeared on the New York Times paperback bestseller list until that list went away a few years back. We shared the same publisher, and I'd heard that publication of Rudd's latest effort had been canceled, mostly because the head of the imprint we shared deemed it unpublishable. I'd also heard that he'd quit writing after a brazen display at our publisher's office, in which he'd flung the pages of his rejected manuscript into the face of an assistant. Looking at Rudd now, I could see why he wasn't writing. He was one of those people who'd looked old even when he was young. And now that he was older, he looked wan, worn, and much the worse for wear. The tweed suit I never saw him out of was draped over his emaciated frame and made for a perfect match with Rudd's sallow, hollow cheeks mottled with several days of stubble. His eyes were drawn and roomy, with bags the size of orange slices sagging beneath them. He took a seat, but didn't look settled at all, fidgeting with his knees as they knocked this way and that. "Mrs. Fletcher," started the man I'd forgotten I'd called upon, "which do you find more interesting, the mysteries you make up or the very real ones you often end up involved in?" "That's quite a question," I said, glad it had distracted me from the presence of Thomas Rudd, though my gaze drifted back his way to find him picking at his fingernails. "I like to be in control, and I also like it when good triumphs in the end, and everything gets wrapped up in a nice, satisfying package. So I'd have to go with the real ones." I waited for the smattering of laughter to die down before continuing. "The truth is, writing is about organization and predictability, neither of which comes into play much with reality. I seem to stumble into the mysteries I do mostly to help people, and let me say this to answer your question," I told the man. "I think that kind of experience in the real world has made me a better writer, because it's brought me a great appreciation of the cost of crime. How many people are affected and hurt when someone is killed? I guess you could call that collateral damage, and I believe it's what reality is all about, yet what fiction usually pays little attention to." The man nodded, smiling. In the back row, Seth and Mort were now pretending to be asleep. Thomas Rudd was studying me intently as if something I'd just said resonated with him somehow. Before I could continue, Otto stepped out in his typically stately fashion. "That's all the time we have, but Jessica will be staying with us to sign books for you, backlist included. Right, Mrs. Fletcher?" "Of course," I smiled, already moving to take my chair behind the signing table before a sea of Sharpies and a bottle of water. Many writers will tell you they detest these things, and while some do, the vast majority of us revel in the opportunity to meet and greet our readers. After all, they made the effort to come out and spend their hard-earned money for a brand-new hardcover just to have me sign it. I've never been able to accurately express how much that means to me, especially given the fact that the only book signings I've ever attended have been my own. Based on the depletion of the pile, I probably signed around 40 as the store's staff assisted me, and while Seth and Mort busied themselves at the wine and cheese station, doing their best to take advantage of Otto's hospitality. It wasn't until the line neared its end that I recalled Thomas Rudd's tardy appearance, and gazed out past the chairs more of the staff were folding up, but he was nowhere to be found.